The noise hit first, that horrible crack of concrete breaking apart. Kim Do-jang barely moved his head in time as chunks of the parking garage wall exploded where he'd been standing a split second earlier. Dust got in his eyes while blood from his cut eyebrow dripped down his face. His fancy suit was ripped at the shoulder, showing just enough of that dragon tattoo that told everyone in Koreatown exactly who he was. The parking garage under Hanok Garden was freezing cold and stank of oil and something metallic. Blood. 6 guys in black masks had him trapped against the wall. No way out. Do-jang looked over at his bodyguard sprawled out on the concrete floor. They weren't moving. The puddle spreading under them told him everything he needed to know. Looks like your luck just ran out, the biggest guy said, swinging a metal pipe like he was warming up for a home run. That's when she walked in. Kiana Tolbert stepped out of the service elevator still wearing her work clothes, white shirt with a little soy sauce stain on the cuff, black apron with the restaurant logo, her hair coming loose from what had been a neat bun at the start of her shift. She took one look at the scene, and her eyes didn't go wide with fear like you'd expect. Instead, they narrowed, taking everything in like she was reading a map. The masked guys barely glanced at her. Just some waitress who picked the wrong moment for a smoke break. Get back inside, Do-jang yelled through clenched teeth. His mouth tasted like blood. Kiana didn't budge. They've got you surrounded, she said, voice steady as a rock. And they knew exactly where you'd be tonight. That wasn't luck. One of the guys actually laughed. Look at this, Waitress thinks she's watching an action movie. He moved toward her like she was nothing. Just another problem to handle. Big mistake. Huge. Hey guys, I almost never pause my stories like this, but I gotta stop right here because what happens next literally made my jaw drop when I first heard it. If you're already feeling that tension in your chest, just know we're only at the tip of this crazy iceberg. Real quick, hit that subscribe button for me and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Seriously, the next part of this story changed how I look at every single person I meet now. You don't want to miss it. Just 3 hours earlier, Kiana had been doing her normal Tuesday night routine at Hanok Garden. Taking orders. Carrying plates of bulgogi and bibimbap. Smiling at customers who snapped their fingers for more water. Nobody looking at her would have guessed she was anything but a regular waitress trying to make rent. She spotted Kim Do-jang the second he walked through the door for his weekly dinner. Everyone knew his face, the young boss who took over the Biko syndicate when his dad suddenly died 3 years back. People said he was trying to clean up the family business, go legit. But Kiana didn't care about his reputation. She noticed something else, how he couldn't sit still. How his eyes kept darting to the windows and doors. The way he whispered to his bodyguards with that tight look on his face. She recognized that look. She'd worn it herself, once upon a time. When she walked up to his table, she kept her face blank. Just another server doing her job. Getting the usual tonight, Mr. Kim? She asked. He looked up like he'd forgotten where he was. Yeah. And bring soju too. As she turned away, her eyes caught a man at the bar watching Do-jang way too carefully. Another guy by the kitchen kept touching something inside his jacket. 14 months. That's how long Kiana had been pretending to be nothing but a waitress. 14 months building this quiet life after everything fell apart in Virginia. 14 months trying to bury skills that once defined who she was. All that work about to go up in smoke. When Do-jang left early and headed for the parking garage instead of the front door, Kiana felt that old familiar feeling, like ice water replacing her blood. She untied her apron, mumbled something about needing a bathroom break, and followed him. Now, standing in that cold garage, Kiana moved like someone hit a switch inside her. The attacker lunged forward, but she wasn't where he expected. One smooth step to the side, a twist of his wrist at just the right angle, and his own momentum carried him face first into the concrete pillar. The garage went dead quiet. The metal pipe he'd been holding rolled across the floor with a hollow sound. 5 guys stared at the waitress who just dropped their friend like it was nothing. The leader's eyes got cold behind his mask. He pulled out a gun. Kill the waitress first. 14 months earlier. Chesapeake, Virginia. The rain hit the windshield in sheets as Kiana Tolbert checked her weapon one last time. Just another night in the van, she told herself. Just another operation. The team had been tracking this weapons smuggling ring for 11 months. Tonight, they were finally going to catch them with the shipment. You're tapping your foot again, Tolbert, Agent Marcus Hayes said from the driver's seat, not looking up from his binoculars. Kiana stopped immediately. Force of habit. Your habits make me nervous, Hayes replied, but he was smiling. At 53, he was the oldest on their 4-person team, with retirement papers already filled out on his desk. 20 years doing this, and I still get the jitters. Pretty sure that's just the 3 coffees you drank, Agent Diaz chimed in from the back of the surveillance van. She was monitoring radio chatter, headphones covering one ear. Harbor security reports no unusual activity. The 4th member of their team, Agent Wilson, was positioned at the east entrance of the shipyard. They had all entrances covered. The intel was solid. The plan was solid. So why did something feel wrong? Special Agent Kiana Tolbert had built her reputation at NCIS on intuition. She'd graduated top of her class, specialized in undercover operations, and had the highest success rate in the Mid-Atlantic Division. When something felt off to her, her supervisors listened. Except tonight. I still think we should have more backup, she said, adjusting her bulletproof vest. Hayes sighed. We've been over this, Tolbert. Director Coleman doesn't want to spook these guys with a big presence. 4 agents, in and out. Clean operation. Kiana nodded, but that feeling wouldn't go away, like a cold finger tracing down her spine. 2 vehicles approaching from the south, Diaz reported. Right on schedule. Wilson, you copy? Hayes spoke into his radio. Static answered. Hayes frowned. Wilson, do you copy? More static. Something's wrong, Kiana said, already reaching for the door handle. Hayes grabbed her arm. Wait. The explosion came first, a flash of orange light erupting from the east side of the shipyard. Then the sound hit them, a deafening boom that rocked the van. Wilson. Diaz screamed. Everything moved too fast after that. Hayes barking orders. Kiana and Diaz sprinting toward the blast. The smell of burning metal and something worse. We need to call for backup, Kiana shouted over her shoulder. Already on it, Hayes replied, radio in hand. They rounded a stack of shipping containers and froze. Wilson's position was a smoking crater. No sign of him. The 2 vehicles they'd been tracking were nowhere to be seen. It's a trap, Kiana realized aloud. The first bullet hit Hayes in the chest, throwing him backward. The second caught Diaz in the throat before she could even reach for her weapon. Kiana dove behind a container, heart hammering as bullets pinged against metal all around her. The sound was deafening in the narrow spaces between containers. Her training kicked in. Assess. Adapt. Survive. She couldn't see the shooters, but the angles of fire suggested at least 4 of them, spread out in a classic ambush formation. They'd known exactly where the NCIS team would be positioned. Kiana returned fire, moving from cover to cover. She reached Hayes, already knowing what she'd find. The bullet had found the one gap in his vest, just below his collarbone. His eyes stared at nothing. No, 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 she whispered, closing them with her fingers. 20 years of service. Retirement papers filled out. A daughter getting married next month. Diaz was already gone, blood pooling under her head. 28 years old. Just like Kiana. Wilson was simply gone. Kiana fought through the shock, through the paralyzing grief, trying to root her to the spot. Move. Survive. Find out who did this. She made it to the perimeter fence before a bullet grazed her arm, spinning her around. She fired back, heard a grunt as her shot found its target. Then nothing but the sound of retreating footsteps and the wail of distant sirens. Negligence. Poor judgment. Failure to follow protocol. Kiana sat stone-faced as Director Coleman read from the official report 3 days later. Her arm was bandaged. Her heart was a block of ice. The operation was compromised due to Agent Tolbert's decision to abandon her post, Coleman continued, not meeting her eyes. That's not what happened, Kiana said, her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. 3 agents are dead, Tolbert. Someone has to answer for that. Someone tipped them off. Someone told them exactly where we'd be. Coleman's face hardened. Are you suggesting there's a leak in my division? I'm saying the official report is wrong. We were ambushed by professionals who knew our positions. That doesn't happen by accident. The director closed the folder. Your service weapon and badge, Agent Tolbert. Sir. Now, Tolbert. You're lucky we're not pressing charges. She placed her badge and gun on his desk, movements mechanical. What happens now? She asked. Now you disappear. Find another line of work. The report stays as is. Kiana stood, dignity intact despite the injustice crushing down on her. 3 good people are dead because someone betrayed us. I'm going to find out who. Coleman didn't blink. You do that, and you'll find yourself in prison. She left the building that had been her life for 6 years, carrying nothing but a cardboard box of personal items and the weight of her teammates' deaths. That night, someone broke into her apartment. They took her case notes, her personal laptop, and the backup phone where she'd stored photos from the crime scene. The message was clear: stop digging. 2 days later, her car exploded in her apartment parking lot. The message got even clearer: disappear or die. Los Angeles was as far from Virginia as she could get without leaving the country. New name? No. New social security number? Too complicated. She just needed to be invisible. Another face in a city of millions. She found work at Hannock Garden because the owner didn't ask many questions. Cash payments for the first month. No references needed. Just show up, work hard, don't cause trouble. For 14 months, Kiana Tolbert became just a waitress. She rented a small apartment in Koreatown. She learned enough Korean to understand kitchen orders. She smiled at customers who didn't tip. She pretended her hands had never held a gun, never taken a life, never closed the eyes of a dead colleague. She stopped looking over her shoulder constantly. Until tonight. Present. Parking garage, Hannock Garden. The gunshot echoed through the parking garage, but Kiana was already moving. She dropped to the ground as the bullet struck the wall behind her, rolling toward the nearest attacker. Her hand closed around the handle of the metal serving tray she'd grabbed from the kitchen on her way out, the one still in her apron pocket. She swung it upward with all her strength, catching the gunman's wrist. The weapon discharged into the ceiling as she twisted his arm and slammed the edge of the tray into his throat. Not enough to kill. Just enough to disable. He dropped, gasping, as his gun skittered across the floor. 3 down, 3 to go, she muttered, already assessing her next move. Du Jiang had managed to get back to his feet. Blood streaked his face, but his eyes were clear, watching her with a mixture of confusion and calculation. The remaining attackers spread out, more cautious now. One had a knife. One held a metal pipe. The leader still had his gun trained on Kiana. "Who are you?" the leader demanded. Kiana didn't answer. She reached into her other apron pocket and pulled out the bottle of hot sauce she'd also grabbed from the kitchen. When the knife wielder lunged, she stepped aside and smashed the bottle in his face. The man screamed as the burning liquid found his eyes. Kiana's elbow connected with his temple, and he crumpled to the ground. 4 down. "She's NCAS, the leader suddenly said, recognition dawning in his eyes. Kiana's blood went cold. How did he know that? Du Jiang used the distraction to tackle the 5th attacker, driving him into a concrete pillar. They grappled briefly before Du Jiang delivered a precise strike to the man's neck, dropping him instantly. 5 down. Just the leader remained, gun still pointed at Kiana. "Chesapeake," he said, and Kiana felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "You were supposed to be dead." Before she could respond, he fired. Du Jiang shoved her aside, the bullet grazing his arm instead of finding her heart. Kiana recovered, kicked the gun from the man's hand, and delivered a combination of strikes that left him unconscious on the concrete. For a moment, the garage was silent except for their heavy breathing. "You're bleeding," Kiana said, noticing the fresh stain on Du Jiang's sleeve. "So are you," he replied, nodding at a cut on her forehead she hadn't even felt. "We need to go," she said, already hearing what he couldn't, car engines approaching the garage entrance. "There are more coming." Du Jiang stared at her, really looking at her now. "You're not a waitress. And you're not just a businessman," she countered. "We can trade life stories later. Right now, we need to move." Headlights swept across the garage entrance, illuminating 3 more black SUVs screeching to a halt. Doors opened. Men with guns poured out. "Too late," Du Jiang muttered. Kiana grabbed his arm. "There's always a way out. You just have to see it." The reinforcements spotted them, shouted orders echoing across the garage. Kiana thought of Hayes. Of Diaz. Of Wilson. Not again. Not tonight. "Trust me," she said to Du Jiang, and for reasons he couldn't explain, he nodded. The hunt was on. Kim Du Jiang had never wanted to be the head of the Biko syndicate. That wasn't the life his mother had envisioned when she brought him to America at age 10, clutching college brochures and dreams of her son becoming a doctor or lawyer. But when the dragon of Koreatown dies, the son must take his place. It's tradition. It's duty. It's survival. Right now, survival meant running through a parking garage with a waitress who fought like a professional killer. "This way," Kiana whispered, pulling him behind a concrete support beam as flashlight beams swept the area. Du Jiang's arm throbbed where the bullet had grazed him. The cut above his eye had stopped bleeding, but his vision blurred whenever he turned too quickly. Still, he'd survived worse. Much worse. 3 years earlier. "Your father wants to see you," Minho said, standing in the doorway of Du Jiang's office. Minho had been his father's right-hand man for 20 years, and now served as Du Jiang's lieutenant. His face revealed nothing, as usual. "Tell him I'll be there in an hour. I'm finalizing the property contracts." Minho didn't move. He said it's important. About the future of the family. Something in Minho's tone made Du Jiang look up from his paperwork. The older man's expression remained neutral, but there was tension around his eyes. "Is everything okay?" Just don't keep him waiting. Traffic on Olympic Boulevard was horrible that day. An accident near Vermont Avenue had everything backed up for blocks. Du Jiang kept checking his watch, irritation building as minutes ticked by. When he finally arrived at his father's house, the traditional Korean-style mansion in the hills above Los Angeles, he was 20 minutes late. The front door was unlocked. That was the first wrong sign. "Father," he called, stepping into the quiet house. "It's Du Jiang." "Sorry, I'm late." No answer. The second wrong sign. He found Kim Sung-ho sitting in his study, slumped in the leather chair that had been imported from Italy. A glass of whiskey sat untouched on the desk. His father's reading glasses were folded neatly beside it. "Father, Minho said you wanted to talk about." Du Jiang stopped mid-sentence. His father wasn't moving. Wasn't breathing. "Father?" He rushed forward, shaking the older man's shoulder. "Father." Kim Sung-ho's skin was cool to the touch. His eyes stared at nothing. The paramedic said it was a heart attack. Natural causes. A man of 67 with high blood pressure and a stressful occupation, no one questioned it. No one except Du Jiang. The last thing his father had said on the phone was, "You make me proud, son. What I'm about to tell you will change everything for our family." Du Jiang never got to hear what that change was supposed to be. "They're getting closer," Kiana whispered, pulling him back to the present. "We need to move again." The parking garage had 3 levels. They were on the bottom level, surrounded by support pillars and parked cars. The exit ramp was blocked by armed men. The stairwells and elevator were likely watched too. "There's a service tunnel," Du Jiang whispered. "Maintenance access. Behind that door." He pointed to a plain metal door partially hidden behind an electrical panel. Few people knew about it, just family members and trusted lieutenants. Kiana nodded, and they crouched low, moving between cars. Du Jiang noticed how she checked every angle, how her eyes constantly scanned for threats. Not just trained, but experienced. This woman had been in combat before. They reached the door, and Du Jiang pulled out his keys. As the lock clicked open, a flashlight beam swept dangerously close to their position. "Freeze!" a voice shouted. Kiana reacted instantly, grabbing a hubcap that had fallen off a nearby car and flinging it like a frisbee. It hit the wall with a loud clang, drawing the attention of their pursuers in the wrong direction. "Go," she hissed, pushing Du Jiang through the door. The service tunnel was narrow and dimly lit by emergency bulbs spaced every 20 feet. They ran, their footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. "Where does this lead?" Kiana asked between breaths. "Loading dock for the restaurant suppliers. 2 blocks over." They rounded a corner and Du Jiang suddenly stopped, holding up his hand. "Wait." He listened carefully, years of survival instincts kicking in. "Someone's ahead of us." Kiana didn't question him. She pressed herself against the wall, gesturing for him to do the same. Footsteps approached from the direction they were heading. "At least 2 people, maybe 3. "They know about the tunnel," Du Jiang whispered, the realization hitting him like ice water. "No one should know about this except your own people," Kiana finished. There was a small alcove to their right, a maintenance closet. Du Jiang pulled the door open and they squeezed inside, closing it until only a crack remained. The space was tiny, forcing them to stand pressed together in the darkness. He could feel Kiana's breath against his neck, her body tense and ready to spring into action if discovered. Footsteps grew louder. Through the crack, Du Jiang saw 3 men pass by, guns drawn. He recognized one of them, Young-ho, one of the newer recruits who had joined 6 months ago on his uncle's recommendation. His uncle Sungmin. The man who had been increasingly vocal about Du Jiang's weak leadership and American ideas. After the men passed, they waited another full minute before slipping out. Those were your men, Kiana said. Not a question. Yes. This isn't random. This is an inside job. Du Jiang's jaw tightened. Let's keep moving. 2 years after his father's death, Du Jiang had called a meeting of the Biko family's senior leadership. 12 men gathered around the long table in the private room above his legitimate business, a high-end Korean barbecue restaurant in the heart of Koreatown. Gentlemen, he began. My father built this organization from nothing. When he came to Los Angeles in 1979, he had nothing but determination and vision. Nods around the table. His father's story was legendary. That vision got us this far. But times are changing. Law enforcement techniques are evolving. Our old methods draw too much attention. His uncle Sungmin shifted in his seat, face already darkening. I propose we accelerate our move into legitimate businesses. Real estate. Import-export. Entertainment. Technology. The profit margins are higher, the risks lower. And the traditions of the Biko, his uncle asked, voice like gravel. The respect we've built? The territory we've defended with blood? Respect can be earned in new ways, Du Jiang countered. Look at the Yakuza in Japan. They've adapted. They've survived. We are not Japanese, Sungmin spat. Your father would be ashamed to hear you speak this way. The words stung, but Du Jiang didn't flinch. My father called me the day he died. He said he was proud of me. That he had something to tell me that would change everything for our family. And convenient that he died before he could say what that was, Sungmin remarked. The room went silent. Even Sungmin seemed to realize he'd gone too far. This conversation isn't finished, Du Jiang said after a moment. But the direction is set. We evolve or we die. The meeting ended with tension thick enough to cut. That night, someone burned down one of Du Jiang's legitimate businesses, a small shopping complex he'd recently purchased. The message was clear, not everyone wanted change. The loading dock is just ahead, Du Jiang whispered as they neared the end of the tunnel. But we need to be careful. If they knew about the tunnel, they might be waiting at the exit, Kiana finished. They slowed their pace, moving more cautiously now. The tunnel opened into a larger room filled with industrial shelving and restaurant supplies. The loading dock doors were visible on the far side. Stay here, Kiana said. I'll check if it's clear. No, Du Jiang grabbed her arm. You've done enough. This is my fight. Your fight got mixed up with mine the moment that guy recognized me, she replied. Besides, I'm trained for this. Are you? Her directness startled him. Most people wouldn't dare speak to him that way. More than you know, he said. Fine. Together then. They moved through the storage room, using the shelves as cover. When they reached the loading dock doors, Du Jiang peered through a small window. 2 men outside, he reported. Armed. Kiana nodded, thinking. We need a distraction. Du Jiang's phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out cautiously, checking the screen. It's Minho, he whispered. My lieutenant. Can you trust him? The question hung in the air. After what they'd seen in the tunnel, could he trust anyone? I don't know anymore, he admitted. But he's been loyal for years. Answer it, Kiana said. Put it on speaker, but say nothing about where we are. Du Jiang nodded and accepted the call. Minho. Boss. Where are you? Are you hurt? Minho's voice came through, genuinely concerned. I'm alive. What's happening? There's an attack at the restaurant. 6 men came for you. Your bodyguards are down. The police are on their way. Who sent them? A pause. We don't know yet. Where are you? I'll send men. No, Du Jiang interrupted. I don't know who to trust right now. Someone knew my routine. Someone knew where I'd be. Another pause. The waitress, boss. Is she with you? Du Jiang's eyes met Qiana's. How did Minho know about her? What waitress? He asked carefully. The new one. The black American woman. She disappeared right after you did. Why do you ask about her? Because she's not who she seems, Minho said, his voice dropping lower. I ran a background check on all new staff last month. Nothing came up on her. No history. It's like she appeared out of nowhere 14 months ago. Qiana's expression remained neutral, but Du Jiang saw her body tense. I need to go, Minho. I'll contact you when I'm safe. Boss, wait. Du Jiang ended the call and pocketed his phone. Someone trying to kill me and a waitress with no past. This evening just keeps getting more interesting. I can explain, Qiana started. Later, Du Jiang cut her off. First, we need to get out of here. He moved to a control panel on the wall and pressed a series of buttons. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the building, the fire evacuation system. Distraction, he said with a small smile. The men outside the loading dock looked toward the building, momentarily diverted. It was all the opening they needed. They slipped out through a side door, keeping to the shadows between delivery trucks. The streets of Koreatown buzzed with the normal evening activity, people shopping, eating, unaware of the violence that had just unfolded beneath the restaurant. We need to get off the street, Qiana said, her eyes constantly scanning for threats. I know a place, Du Jiang replied. But first, who are you, really? And why did that man in the garage know you? Qiana met his gaze. Someone in your organization sold you out tonight. That attack was coordinated, professional. They knew exactly where you'd be and when. You're avoiding my question. I'm making a point. My past caught up with me tonight, and somehow it's connected to your present. That's not a coincidence. Du Jiang absorbed this. She was right. The precision of the attack. The tunnel ambush. The man recognizing her from Chesapeake. Too many connections to be random. We need a car, he said finally. And somewhere safe to talk. Your places won't be safe if this is an inside job. I have one that nobody knows about. Not even Minho. A pair of headlights turned onto their street, the car slowing as it approached. Get down, Qiana hissed, pulling him behind a parked van. The car crawled past their position, a black Lexus with tinted windows. The kind his family used. Du Jiang held his breath, watching as the vehicle stopped at the intersection ahead. Is that one of yours? Qiana whispered. Yes. The Lexus sat idling at the intersection, as if the driver was searching for something. Or someone. They're looking for us, Qiana said. Question is, to help us or finish the job. The Lexus's window rolled down slightly, and the barrel of a gun appeared. I think we have our answer, Qiana muttered. The gun barrel retreated inside the Lexus as the back window rolled down further. Du Jiang tensed, ready to run, when a familiar face leaned out. Boss. Thank God. Minho. His lieutenant's normally composed face was creased with worry, a cut above his left eye still fresh enough to be bleeding. Du Jiang let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Kiana remained tense beside him, clearly not convinced. That's Minho, he explained. My right hand. The one who just called you, she whispered. Convenient timing. He's been with my family for 20 years. So were the men who just tried to kill you. Du Jiang hesitated only briefly before stepping out from behind the van. Sometimes you had to trust someone. Minho had been his father's most loyal soldier, and now his. If he couldn't trust Minho, he couldn't trust anyone. Boss. Minho jumped out of the car, rushing forward. He stopped short when he saw Kiana emerge from the shadows. I see the waitress found you. More like saved me, Du Jiang replied. We need to get off the streets. Now. Minho nodded, opening the car door. I came alone. Didn't know who else to trust. Kiana's eyes darted between Minho, the car, and the street around them. Du Jiang could practically see her calculating escape routes, weighing probabilities. She was still deciding whether to run. It's okay, he told her. If Minho wanted me dead, he's had 1,000 better chances than this. After another moment of hesitation, Kiana slid into the back seat of the Lexus. Du Jiang followed, with Minho taking the wheel. Your uncle is looking for you, Minho said as he pulled away from the curb. He has men all over Koreatown. My uncle, Du Jiang repeated, his voice flat. Was he at the restaurant tonight? No. He called after the attack, asking if you were alive. Seemed concerned. I bet he did. The car moved swiftly through the evening traffic, taking an indirect route through side streets and residential areas. Minho was checking the rearview mirror constantly. We're being followed, he announced after 10 minutes. Du Jiang turned to look out the back window. 2 motorcycles were keeping pace with them, hanging back just far enough to not be obvious. Take the tunnel on Wilshire, he instructed. Minho nodded, making a sudden turn that caught one of the motorcycles off guard. The rider had to swerve sharply to follow. They're not trying very hard to hide, Kiana observed. Maybe they don't need to, Minho replied. Maybe they just need to know where you go. The thought hung in the air as Minho accelerated into the tunnel. Halfway through, he suddenly hit the brakes and pulled a sharp U-turn. The motorcycles, caught by surprise, zoomed past before they could react. By the time they managed to turn around, Minho had already exited the tunnel and turned onto a side street. Clean, he announced 5 minutes later. Where to, boss? Du Jiang considered for a moment. The Overlook. Minho's eyebrows rose slightly, the only indication of surprise from the stoic man. Are you sure? It's the only place I'm sure about right now. The rest of the drive took them up winding roads into the Hollywood Hills. The city lights spread out below them like a galaxy of stars fallen to earth. Minho eventually turned onto a narrow private road that didn't appear on any map, leading to a modern house perched on the hillside, all glass and sharp angles. What is this place? Kiana asked as they pulled into the garage. Somewhere safe, Du Jiang replied. The garage door closed behind them, and Minho punched a code into a keypad. The lights came on automatically, revealing a sleek interior that looked like it belonged in an architectural magazine. My father built this house 25 years ago, Du Jiang explained as they entered. On paper, it belongs to a shell corporation that doesn't connect to our family. Only he and I knew about it. And me, Minho added. I helped build it. The house was pristine, minimalist in design but comfortable. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of Los Angeles, though currently the blinds were drawn for security. There's a first aid kit in the bathroom, Minho said. I'll check the perimeter. Once Minho left the room, Kiana visibly relaxed, but only slightly. She moved to a position where she could see both the main entrance and the hallway leading to the back of the house. Old habits, she said when she caught Du Jiang watching her. Not so old, it seems. He gestured to her arm where a cut was still slowly seeping blood. Let's take care of that first. In the bathroom, Du Jiang pulled out a well-stocked medical kit. He cleaned the cut on Kiana's arm while she sat on the edge of the bathtub, her eyes never staying in one place for long. You handle that like you've done it before, she observed as he applied antiseptic with practiced movements. In my line of work, you learn. Your line of work. She almost smiled. Running restaurants? Among other things. He finished with the bandage and stepped back. Your turn. Who exactly are you, Kiana Tolbert? The moment of truth had arrived. Kiana seemed to come to a decision, her shoulders squaring slightly. Until 14 months ago, I was Special Agent Kiana Tolbert with the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Du Jiang nodded. That explains the fighting skills. Not standard waitress training. No. There was almost a smile there. I specialized in undercover operations, mostly dealing with weapons smuggling and trafficking networks. And now you're serving bibimbap in Koreatown? Career change. Seemed healthier. Du Jiang leaned against the bathroom counter, studying her. What happened 14 months ago in Chesapeake? Kiana's eyes darkened. My team was ambushed during an operation. 3 agents killed. I was the only survivor. Official report blamed me for breaking protocol. And the unofficial story? Someone sold us out. Someone with inside knowledge of our positions and timing. Her voice remained steady, but Du Jiang could see the pain beneath the surface. When I tried to investigate, things got complicated. My apartment was broken into, my car exploded. The message was pretty clear. So you ran. I relocated, she corrected. And tried to build a quiet life. Until tonight. Du Jiang touched the bandage on his own arm. When that man recognized you. Called you NCIS. Kiana nodded slowly. That shouldn't have happened. No one here should know who I am. Minho appeared in the doorway. Perimeters clear. Security system active. Thank you, Minho. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning. Minho hesitated, looking at Kiana with barely concealed suspicion. It's all right, Du Jiang assured him. We're just comparing notes. After Minho left, Du Jiang led Kiana to the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator, surprisingly well-stocked for a safe house. Hungry? He asked, pulling out ingredients. You cook too? Another unexpected skill. He began preparing a simple meal of rice, vegetables, and bulgogi he found in the freezer. So, we both have people trying to kill us. The question is, are they the same people? Kiana leaned against the counter, watching him work. The timing is suspicious. The men who attacked you knew professional combat tactics. And one of them recognized me from an operation that went bad over a year ago, across the country. My family has connections all over, but not typically with domestic law enforcement operations. Du Jiang stirred the bulgogi in the pan. Unless what? Unless what my team was tracking wasn't just local. He looked up from the cooking. What exactly was the Chesapeake operation targeting? Kiana hesitated. Du Jiang could see her weighing how much to share. A weapons smuggling ring. Military-grade hardware disappearing from Navy shipments, ending up on the streets. International connections. We suspected Asian organized crime involvement, but never confirmed it before everything went sideways. The pieces were starting to fit together in Du Jiang's mind. My uncle has been pushing to expand our traditional business lines. I've been trying to move us legitimate. It's caused tension. You think your uncle might be involved in weapons smuggling? I think my uncle has been making moves behind my back. And I think my father might have discovered something before he died. Du Jiang turned off the stove. Something he wanted to tell me about the future of our family. He plated the food and set it on the kitchen island between them. For a moment, they were just two people sharing a late dinner after a long day. Not a mafia boss and an ex-federal agent. Just two people with overlapping problems. I can help you identify who's trying to kill you, Kiana said after taking a few bites. My training, my experience, I can spot patterns, connections. In exchange for what? Protection. And information. If your uncle is connected to what happened in Virginia, I want to know. 3 good people died. Someone needs to answer for that. Du Jiang considered this. So a mutual assistance arrangement. You help me find the traitor in my organization. I help you get answers about Chesapeake. Something like that. And after? When we both have what we want? You were NCIS. He gestured vaguely, not exactly on the right side of the law. Kiana met his gaze directly. I'm not NCIS anymore. And from what I've seen, you're trying to change things. Make them legitimate. That counts for something. So a truce? An alliance, she corrected. Temporary. I tried to leave that life behind, she added after a moment, her voice softer. Being that person again, it's not what I wanted. Sometimes the past doesn't let you walk away, Du Jiang replied. Trust me, I know. Before Kiana could respond, Minho appeared in the doorway again, this time holding a tablet. Boss, you need to see this. He handed over the tablet, which showed a local news website. The headline read, Break-in at Koreatown apartment connected to restaurant attack. Below was a grainy image of police outside a building that Kiana clearly recognized. That's my place, she said, taking the tablet. How did they? They're sending a message, Du Jiang said. Just like in Virginia. Kiana's expression hardened. Well, now I definitely can't go home. You don't have to. Du Jiang gestured to the house around them. Plenty of room here. I'll set up in the guest wing, Minho said. He turned to leave but Kiana's voice stopped him. Your holster is on the wrong side. Minho froze. What? When you came to pick us up, your gun was on your left hip. Now it's on your right. Kiana's voice was casual, but her body had tensed, ready to move. People don't usually switch their draw side for fun. Du Jiang's hand moved slowly toward the knife block on the counter. Minho? The lieutenant turned around slowly, his face unreadable. Sharp eye, he said to Kiana. I wrenched my shoulder fighting off 2 guys at the restaurant. Had to switch sides. He pulled back his collar to show fresh bruising along his left shoulder and collarbone. The men who attacked you were waiting, he continued. Like they knew your schedule. I've been trying to figure out who could have told them. The tension in the room eased slightly, but not completely. Kiana's eyes still tracked Minho's every move. Get some rest, Du Jiang told his lieutenant. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. After Minho left, Kiana moved closer to Du Jiang, her voice dropping to a whisper. You trust him completely? I've trusted him with my life for years. And yet someone close to you set you up tonight. Du Jiang sighed. What are you saying? I'm saying his explanation makes sense. But in my experience, people don't usually change which side they carry their weapon. It becomes muscle memory. Instinct. You think he's lying about the shoulder? I think we should be careful. That's all. Du Jiang looked down the hallway where Minho had disappeared. Careful it is, he agreed. Dawn broke over Los Angeles, painting the hills in gold and orange. Kiana hadn't slept. She'd spent the night positioned in a chair with a clear view of both the bedroom door and the window, a kitchen knife hidden under her pillow. Old habits. She heard the footsteps approaching her door before the knock came, heavy, deliberate steps that didn't belong to either Du Jiang or Minho. Breakfast is ready, ma'am, a male voice called. Kiana moved silently to the door, positioning herself to the side. I'll be right out. As soon as the footsteps retreated, she slipped out of the room. The hillside house was larger than it had appeared last night, all sleek modernist design with open spaces and glass walls. She followed the smell of coffee to the kitchen, where Du Jiang stood talking with 3 men she hadn't seen before. Security personnel, by the look of them, athletic builds, alert eyes, concealed weapons poorly hidden under casual clothes. Du Jiang looked up when she entered. Ah, there you are. Sleep well? Like a baby, she lied. New friends? Additional security. This is Tae, Jun, and Hyun. They're my personal team. The 3 men nodded politely, but Kiana didn't miss how the one called Hyun's hand twitched slightly toward his hip when she entered. Nervous. Or guilty. Where's Minho? She asked casually, accepting a cup of coffee from Du Jiang. Supply run. We'll be here a few days. Kiana sipped her coffee, using the moment to study the 3 new arrivals. Tae and Jun looked like typical security, competent, professional, unremarkable. But Hyun kept shifting his weight, eyes darting around the room. So, she said, looking at the newest additions, how long have you guys worked for Mr. Kim? 5 years, Tae answered promptly. 6 for me, said Jun. Hyun hesitated just a fraction too long. 3 years. Kiana noticed the glance that passed between Tae and Jun, subtle, but there. She'd seen that look before. The, who is this new person questioning us, look. Hyun only joined us last year, Du Jiang corrected mildly. After the incident at the casino, remember? Hyun's face flushed. Of course. Sorry, boss. Still half asleep. Understandable, Du Jiang said smoothly. Why don't you check the perimeter again? Make sure the motion sensors are properly calibrated. Yes, sir. As Hyun left, Kiana caught Du Jiang's eye. A silent message passed between them. Tae, Jun, give us a minute, Du Jiang said. When they were alone, Kiana set down her coffee. He's lying about how long he's worked for you. Yes. And that doesn't concern you? It concerns me greatly. Du Jiang's voice was calm but his eyes had hardened. Hyun was recommended by my uncle 6 months ago. His background checked out. Did Minho do the background check? No. My uncle's people did. Du Jiang's jaw tightened slightly. A mistake I won't repeat. Before they could discuss it further, a crash came from outside, followed by a shout. They both moved to the window in time to see Hyun sprinting toward the gate, phone in hand. He's calling someone, Kiana said. Du Jiang didn't hesitate. Tae. Jun. Stop him. The 2 security men appeared instantly, rushing after Hyun. But Kiana was already moving, bursting through the side door and cutting across the garden. Years of training kicked in as she calculated angles and speed. Hyun saw her coming and changed direction, reaching inside his jacket. Kiana didn't give him time to draw. She launched herself forward, tackling him around the waist. They hit the ground hard, rolling across the manicured lawn. Hyun was strong, but Kiana had surprise and technique on her side. She locked his arm in a joint manipulation hold that had been perfected by generations of combat instructors. "Drop it," she ordered as his fingers went white around his phone. "Screw you," he gasped, still struggling. Kiana applied more pressure to the joint. Hyun yelped in pain, the phone falling from his grip. Tae reached them a moment later, quickly securing Hyun with zip ties as Kiana retrieved the phone. The screen showed a text message, interrupted mid-send, there at the over dash. "Bring him inside," Du Jang ordered, his voice deadly calm. "If you're loving this, make sure you hit subscribe right now. Let me know in the comments if you figured out who the traitor might be. I'm reading all your theories." Now, let's get back to what happens when they confront Hyun. They secured Hyun to a chair in the living room. His initial bravado had faded, replaced by nervous sweat and darting eyes. "Who were you calling?" Du Jang asked, his voice deceptively soft. "No one." "Wrong number." Du Jang sighed, then nodded to Tae, who opened Hyun's phone. "Passcode?" Hyun pressed his lips together stubbornly. "We don't have time for this," Kiana said. She took the phone from Tae and examined it. It's still unlocked from when he was typing. The last call was to a number saved as Uncle S. Du Jang's expression didn't change, but Kiana saw his knuckles whiten as he clenched his fist. "Uncle Sungmin," he said. "My father's brother." Hyun's face drained of color. "I was just following orders." "Whose orders?" Kiana pressed. "Sungmin's?" Hyun's eyes flicked between them, calculating. "I was just hired yesterday. Some guy approached me outside a bar in Koreatown. Paid me $5,000 to take the real Hyun's place for a few days. I don't know anything about any uncle." "You're lying," Du Jang said flatly. "I swear." "Look, I needed the money. Guy said all I had to do was report where you went. No one was supposed to get hurt." Kiana studied him carefully. "What did this guy look like?" "The one who hired you." "White guy. Kinda tall, buzz cut. Had this weird scar on his neck, like a burn." The description hit Kiana like a physical blow. She knew exactly who that was. "Was his name Brenner?" Hyun looked surprised. "Yeah, that's what the other guy called him." "How'd you know?" Kiana turned to Du Jang. "We need to talk. Now." They stepped into the adjacent room, leaving Tae and June to watch their prisoner. "You know this Brenner person," Du Jang said. "Agent Ryan Brenner. He worked with me at NCIS." Kiana's voice was tight. "He wasn't part of the Chesapeake operation, but he was stationed in the same office. And now he's recruiting fake security for my uncle? It gets worse." Kiana ran a hand through her hair, thoughts racing. "Brenner specialized in Asian organized crime networks. If he's working with your uncle, then my uncle has connections inside federal law enforcement." Du Jang's face had gone hard. "And possibly had them 14 months ago when your team was ambushed." The full implication of what they were discovering settled over them like a cold shadow. "We need to move," Kiana decided. "If fake Hyun was reporting to your uncle, and your uncle is working with Brenner, then this place isn't safe anymore." "Agreed. But first, we need information." Du Jang pulled out his phone. "I'm going to call Min Ho, have him dig into my uncle's activities over the past year." "And the real Hyun? The one this imposter replaced?" Du Jang's expression darkened. "Probably dead, if my uncle is involved." As Du Jang made his call, Kiana returned to the living room to find Fei Qian talking rapidly to Tae and Jun. Told you, there's a whole team coming. They'll be here any minute. You guys are dead if you stay. Convenient, Kiana said. Trying to scare us into letting you go? Lady, I don't care about getting away anymore. That guy Brenner? He's crazy. The things I heard him say. Hyun swallowed hard. He was talking about cleaning up loose ends once they found you too. Kiana's instincts prickled. She moved to the window, scanning the winding road that led up to the house. Nothing visible, but the terrain offered plenty of cover. Du Jiang returned, his expression grim. Minho's not answering. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place in Kiana's mind. His holster. You said he always wore it on the left, but last night it was on the right. You think Minho? Du Jiang couldn't finish the sentence. I don't know. But something's wrong. She turned to Tae and Jun. How did you guys know to come here this morning? Who contacted you? The two men exchanged glances. Minho called us, Tae answered. Said the boss needed extra security at the Overlook. But Minho supposedly only learned about the Overlook last night, Kiana pointed out. And you said almost no one knows about this place. The realization settled over Du Jiang's face like a shadow. We need to leave. Now. Tae moved to the window, then froze. Boss. Cars coming up the road. Kiana joined him. 3 black SUVs were winding their way up the hillside, still a couple of minutes away. Could be your men, Kiana suggested, without much hope. My men don't drive in convoys to a secure location. Du Jiang turned to Tae and Jun, get the emergency bags from the safe room. 2 minutes. As his security team rushed to comply, Du Jiang led Kiana to his office at the back of the house. He unlocked a hidden panel on the wall, revealing a small arsenal of weapons. Take what you need, he said, selecting a handgun for himself. Kiana chose a compact 9mm similar to what she'd carried at NCIS. The weight of it in her hand brought back a flood of memories, some she'd rather forget. There's a tunnel, Du Jiang explained as they worked. My father believed in backup plans. It leads to a garage about half a mile down the hill. What about your men? Tae and Jun. They know the protocol. They'll create a diversion, then meet us at the secondary location. And him? Kiana nodded toward the living room where Fei Qian was still tied to the chair. Du Jiang's face hardened. Leave him. If it's my uncle coming up that hill, he'll recognize a hired gun. If it's not my uncle, then whoever it is already knows we were here. They gathered what they needed quickly, weapons, cash, a laptop, and the Fei Qian's phone. Tae and Jun returned with 2 pre-packed bags, faces professionally blank but eyes betraying their tension. Cars are 3 minutes out, Tae reported. We'll hold them at the gate. Du Jiang gripped the man's shoulder. Be careful. If it's my uncle, he won't hesitate to eliminate witnesses. We know the risks, boss. As Tae and Jun took up defensive positions, Du Jiang led Kiana to the wine cellar. He twisted a specific bottle in the rack, and a section of the wall slid open to reveal a narrow passage. Your father really was prepared for anything, Kiana remarked. He survived the Korean gang wars of the 80s. Paranoia becomes a survival trait. Du Jiang handed her a flashlight. Stay close. The tunnel was cool and smelled of earth and concrete. They moved quickly, guided by the narrow beams of their flashlights. Behind them, muffled by distance and earth, came the sound of vehicles arriving at the house. You know, Kiana said as they hurried along, for a waitress and a restaurant owner, we find ourselves in a lot of tunnels lately. The unexpected humor drew a small smile from Du Jiang. Not exactly how I planned to spend my week. What was the plan? Before all this? Quarterly business review. New menu planning. Boring stuff. Sounds nice. Boring is underrated. They continued in silence for a few minutes. The tunnel gradually sloped downward, leading them deeper into the hillside. Before, when Fei Qian mentioned Brenner, Du Jiang said suddenly, "You recognize the name immediately." Yes. There's more to that story, isn't there? Kiana hesitated. Brenner was connected to the Chesapeake operation. Not directly, but he had access to the files. To our schedules and positions. You suspected him? I had questions. No proof. The narrow beam of her flashlight bounced off the tunnel walls as they walked. After everything went bad, he was one of the people who pushed hardest for the official story blaming me. And now he's in Los Angeles, working with my uncle. Du Jiang's voice was thoughtful. Connecting dots 14 months apart and 3,000 miles away. It's not a coincidence. Kiana's voice hardened. The timing, the tactics, the precision of both attacks. It's the same playbook. They reached the end of the tunnel, emerging into a small, well-hidden garage containing a single black sedan. Du Jiang quickly disabled the security system and opened the car. If Brenner is NCIS, and he's working with my uncle, he said as they got in, then we're facing a dangerous combination. Federal resources and criminal networks. It's worse than that, Kiana replied, the full picture finally becoming clear in her mind. Don't you see? The weapons smuggling operation in Virginia. Your uncle trying to expand traditional business lines against your wishes. Brenner showing up here in LA. She turned to face him as Du Jiang started the car. It's the same people, Du Jiang. The ones who killed my team in Virginia are the same ones trying to kill you now. Your uncle and Brenner, they've been working together all along. Du Jiang's hands tightened on the steering wheel as the implications sank in. Then my father. He began. Probably discovered the connection, Kiana finished softly. Just like he was about to tell you something important the day he died. Before Du Jiang could respond, his phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Overlook compromised. Minho taken. They know about the beach house. Tay. Du Jiang stared at the message in disbelief. How could they know about the beach house? Only my father, Minho, and I knew about that property. The answer was obvious and terrible. Their circle of trust had just shrunk even further. We can't go to any of your properties, Kiana said. They'll be watching all of them. Then where? Kiana took a deep breath. I know a place. But we need to move fast. If they found the overlook. They'll find the tunnel exit soon, Du Jiang finished, putting the car in drive. Lead the way. As they pulled out onto the road, the sound of gunfire echoed from the hillside above. Tay and June's diversion was underway. Kiana thought of the two loyal men they'd left behind, of Minho who might already be dead, of her own teammates who had died in Virginia. The body count was rising. And they were still no closer to safety. Du Jiang drove with the precision of someone who'd escaped danger before, taking sudden turns down residential streets, doubling back, watching the rearview mirror constantly. I don't think we're being followed, Kiana said after 20 minutes of evasive driving. Better to be sure. Du Jiang checked the mirrors again. Those weren't just my uncle's men back there. Some of them moved like professionals. Military or law enforcement. Brenner's people. Kiana stared out the window, watching the neighborhoods change as they drove deeper into the city. He always had connections outside the agency. People who could do things off the books. A police car passed them going the opposite direction, and both of them tensed until it disappeared around a corner. We can't keep driving randomly, Kiana said. We need somewhere to regroup, figure out our next move. Du Jiang was quiet for a moment, then made a decision. There is one place. It's risky, but it might be our best option. He turned the car east, heading toward the San Gabriel Valley. The neighborhoods transformed around them, from the tightly packed urban core to wider streets lined with modest homes and small businesses with signs in Korean, Chinese, and Vietnamese. Where are we going? Kiana asked as they passed through Monterey Park. My mother's house. Kiana turned to him in surprise. Your mother is alive? I thought. Most people do. Du Jiang's expression softened slightly. It's safer that way. For her. They drove for another 20 minutes, eventually turning into a quiet residential neighborhood in Hacienda Heights. The houses were neat, middle-class suburban homes, nothing like what you'd expect for the family of a crime boss. Du Jiang pulled into the driveway of a modest ranch-style house with a well-maintained garden. An older model Honda sat in the carport. My mother lives like any other Korean immigrant grandmother, he explained as they got out. The neighbors think her son owns a few restaurants. She bakes them cookies at Christmas. Before they reached the front door, it opened to reveal a small woman in her 70s, her silver hair cut in a practical bob. She wore simple slacks and a blouse, but her posture was straight and dignified. Du Jiang, she said, her voice a mix of surprise and concern. Her eyes moved to Kiana, then back to her son. M.W. Ohani? What's happening? We need to come inside, Yama, he replied in Korean. It's not safe. She stepped back without hesitation, ushering them in. The interior of the house was clean and comfortable, with a mix of traditional Korean elements and American suburban practicality. Family photos lined the walls, Du Jiang as a child, as a teenager, in a college graduation gown. His mother locked the door behind them and pulled the curtains closed. Only then did she turn to Kiana. You bring a stranger to my home, she said in accented but clear English. She must be important. This is Kiana Tolbert, Du Jiang introduced. She saved my life last night. The older woman's eyes widened slightly. She bowed her head to Kiana. Then I am in your debt, Miss Tolbert. Please, just Kiana, she replied, returning the bow awkwardly. I am Sunja, Du Jiang's mother said. Come, you both look exhausted. Hungry? Before they could answer, she was already moving toward the kitchen. Du Jiang smiled apologetically at Kiana. Korean mothers, he explained. Food is the first response to any crisis. While Sunja prepared a meal, Du Jiang gave Kiana a brief tour of the house, ending in what had clearly once been his childhood bedroom. It was preserved like a time capsule, academic trophies on the shelf, UCLA pennant on the wall, books on business and economics lining a small bookcase. You went to UCLA? Kiana asked, picking up a framed photo of a younger Du Jiang in a graduation gown, his father standing proudly beside him. Business degree. He took the photo from her, looking at it with a complicated expression. My father wanted me to understand the legitimate side before I learned the family business. He wanted better for you. He wanted change. Evolution. Du Jiang set the photo down carefully. The old ways were becoming too dangerous, too limited. He saw the future clearly. Sunja called them to the dining room, where she had somehow produced a spread of Korean dishes in record time, rice, kimchi, soup, and side dishes that steamed invitingly on the table. Eat first, talk after, she insisted. They ate in relative silence, the home-cooked meal more comforting than either would admit after the chaos of the past 24 hours. When they finished, Sunja cleared the dishes despite Du Jiang's attempts to help. Now, she said, returning to the table. Tell me what trouble follows you to my door. Du Jiang hesitated, clearly trying to decide how much to share with his mother. Uncle Sungmin is trying to kill me, he said finally. Sunja's face hardened, but she didn't look surprised. That man. Always hungry for what isn't his. You suspected? Du Jiang asked. Mothers know things. She looked between them. What else? Du Jiang glanced at Kiana, who nodded slightly. He took a deep breath. I think he killed father. And now he's working with Americans to smuggle weapons. Sunja closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the blow. When she opened them, her gaze was steel. Your father called me that day, she said quietly. Before he died. Du Jiang leaned forward. What did he say? He found something in Sungmin's office. Papers. Names. He was going to show you, then confront his brother. She reached across the table to touch her son's hand. He sounded worried, but determined. What kind of papers? Kiana asked gently. Shipping manifests, he said. Military equipment that shouldn't be in civilian hands. Sunja's eyes moved to her son. He said Sungmin had betrayed everything they built. Du Jiang's knuckles whitened as he clenched his fist. And the heart attack? Your father's heart was strong. Sunja's voice was soft but certain. Like yours. The three sat in silence for a moment, the weight of old suspicions finally confirmed. We need proof, Kiana said eventually. Something concrete that connects Sungmin to the weapons smuggling. And to Brenner. Sunja stood up. Wait here. She disappeared into another room, returning moments later with a small wooden box. Your father gave this to me the week before he died. Said if anything happened to him, I should keep it safe until it was needed. She placed the box in front of Du Jiang, who opened it carefully. Inside was a USB drive, old but well preserved. He never told me what was on it, Sunja said. Only that it was insurance. Du Jiang turned the drive in his hand, then looked up at Kiana. We need a computer. They moved to the small home office off the living room. A desktop computer sat on the desk, older model, but functional. Du Jiang inserted the drive, and after a moment, folders appeared on the screen. It's encrypted, he said, staring at the password prompt. Sunja leaned over his shoulder. Try my birthday. The attempt failed. Your birthday? Kiana suggested. That failed too. What about the day he founded the business? Sunja offered. Du Jiang typed in a string of numbers. The folders unlocked, revealing dozens of files with dates and codes as names. He was tracking them, Du Jiang murmured as they began opening files. 4 months before he died. The documents told a disturbing story, shipping manifests for military equipment diverted from legitimate channels, financial records showing payments to offshore accounts, communications between Sungmin and unnamed American contacts. These go back 3 years before your father died, Kiana noted, scanning the dates. Sungmin was building this network for a long time. And my father discovered it. Du Jiang's voice was hollow. That's why he wanted to legitimize our businesses. He knew what Sungmin was doing would eventually destroy everything. As they dug deeper into the files, Kiana felt a growing sense of connection between what they were seeing and her own tragedy in Chesapeake. The timing matches, she said, pointing to shipment dates. These diverted weapons could have been what my team was tracking in Virginia. It's a global operation, Du Jiang realized as they opened more files. Not just my uncle. Look at these names: Japanese Yakuza, Chinese triads, Russian connections. They've built an international network, with someone inside NCIS helping cover their tracks. Kiana's voice tightened. Someone like Brenner. Sunja brought them tea as they worked through the files. Hours passed as they pieced together the scope of what they were discovering: a massive weapons trafficking operation spanning multiple countries, with Sung Min as one of the key organizers. Your father was incredibly thorough, Kiana said, impressed despite the grim content. This is the kind of evidence federal prosecutors dream about. He was always meticulous. Said details were the difference between success and prison. As they reached the last folder, Kiana suddenly grabbed Du Jiang's arm. Wait. Open that one. The file contained photographs, surveillance images taken from a distance. They showed Sung Min meeting with a man in an outdoor cafe. Do you recognize him? Du Jiang asked, seeing Kiana's face go pale. That's Director Coleman. Her voice was barely audible. My supervisor at NCIS. The one who forced me out. The implications hit them both simultaneously. This wasn't just Brenner gone rogue. This was bigger, reaching into the upper levels of federal law enforcement. When was this taken? Kiana asked, her hands shaking slightly. Du Jiang checked the file data. 2 weeks before your operation in Chesapeake. The last piece of the puzzle clicked into place. My team never had a chance, Kiana whispered. We were sent to die. The weight of this realization seemed to physically press her down into the chair. 3 people, friends, colleagues, dead because their own leadership had betrayed them. Everything she'd blamed herself for, every night spent reliving those moments and wondering what she could have done differently, it had all been orchestrated from the beginning. I should have seen it, she said, her voice hollow. There were signs. Coleman rushing the operation. Minimal backup. The perfect ambush. You couldn't have known. Du Jiang's voice was gentle. Not when the betrayal came from the top. Kiana stood abruptly, walking to the window. She pulled the curtain back just enough to look out at the quiet suburban street, so normal, so disconnected from the horror they were uncovering. Hayes had a daughter getting married, she said after a long moment. He'd filled out his retirement papers. Diaz had just bought her first house. Wilson was coaching his son's baseball team. Her voice cracked slightly. They all had lives. Plans. Futures. And Coleman just threw them away. Like they were nothing. Du Jiang came to stand beside her, close enough for support but not touching. My father died alone in his study. I was stuck in traffic, 20 minutes too late. He wanted to change things, make them better. Sung Min couldn't allow that. They stood there, side by side, 2 people connected by parallel tragedies, by the same hidden enemies working from different sides of the law. We can stop them, Kiana said finally, turning to face him. With what's on that drive, we have enough to bring down the entire network. If we can get it to the right people. Du Jiang's expression was doubtful. With Coleman involved, we can't trust normal channels. Sunja cleared her throat from the doorway, reminding them of her presence. Your father had a saying, when the tiger and the dragon fight openly, the clever fox steals the prize. Du Jiang looked at his mother thoughtfully. We need a third option. Someone outside both our worlds but with enough power to act. I might know someone, Kiana said slowly. My former training officer at NCIS. She retired 2 years ago, but she still has connections. And she never liked Coleman. Can you trust her? More than anyone else right now. Kiana looked back at the computer screen, at Coleman's face captured in the surveillance photo. But we need more than what's on the drive. We need current evidence. Proof that the operation is still active. My uncle keeps records of everything at his office in the Plaza building downtown. Du Jiang's eyes narrowed in thought. Security is tight, but I know the layout. You're thinking of breaking in? Kiana raised an eyebrow. That's not exactly low profile. No. I'm thinking of walking in the front door. A hint of a smile touched his lips. I'm still the head of the family, after all. At least officially. They'll be expecting you. Exactly. That's our advantage. Sanja watched this exchange with a mixture of pride and concern. Your father would approve of your boldness. But he would tell you to sleep first. Clear minds make better plans. Du Jiang nodded, suddenly aware of the exhaustion weighing him down. They'd been running on adrenaline for almost 24 hours. Your old room is ready, Sanja told her son. And the guest room for Miss Kiana. As they prepared to rest, Du Jiang copied the contents of the USB drive to a secure cloud server and a second flash drive he kept on his keychain. Insurance, just as his father had intended. Kiana paused at the door to the guest room. Du Jiang. He turned. Thank you. For trusting me with this. With your mother's safety. You saved my life, he replied simply. And you're the first person in a long time who's seen me as something more than just the dragon's son. Their eyes held for a moment, something unspoken passing between them, recognition of a connection that had formed quickly under pressure but felt surprisingly solid. Get some rest, he said finally. Tomorrow, we take the fight to them. As Kiana closed the door behind her, she heard Sanja speaking softly to her son in Korean. She couldn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable, a mother's worry for her child, a fear of losing him that transcended language. Kiana sat on the edge of the bed, looking at her hands that had served food, held weapons, fought for survival, and now held evidence that could finally bring justice for her fallen teammates. For the first time in 14 months, she felt something like hope. Outside, as twilight settled over the quiet neighborhood, a car drove slowly past the house. Inside sat a man with a buzz cut and a burned scar on his neck, talking quietly into a phone. Yes, sir. I think we found them. Dawn broke over Sanja's quiet suburban home as Kiana and Du Jiang spread maps and blueprints across the kitchen table. They'd slept for a few hours, not enough, but better than nothing. Sanja moved around them, quietly preparing breakfast and refilling coffee cups without interrupting their planning. The Plaza building has 3 entrances, Du Jiang explained, pointing to the blueprints. Main lobby, loading dock, and a private elevator my father had installed in the parking structure. That's our best way in. And your uncle's office? Kiana asked, studying the layout. Top floor, northeast corner. The most secure area in the building. Kiana tapped a finger on the blueprints. Security cameras? Everywhere except the private bathrooms and my uncle's personal office. He's paranoid about being recorded. That paranoia might work in our favor. Kiana circled several points on the map. What about guards? At least 4 on the executive floor. Another 6 throughout the building. Plus whatever extra security my uncle has added since he started trying to kill me. Du Jiang's voice was matter-of-fact, as if discussing traffic patterns instead of people who wanted him dead. Sanja placed a plate of food in front of her son, then another before Kiana. You need strength, she said simply. Thank you, Kiana replied, realizing she was actually starving. As they ate, they continued refining their plan. The operation was simple in concept. Enter the building through the private elevator using Du Jiang's still active access card, make their way to Sung Min's office, find evidence linking him to Brenner and the weapons smuggling, then get out. The complexity lay in the execution. If we're wrong about any of this, Kiana said, pushing her empty plate aside, we're both dead. Du Jiang nodded. But if we're right, we finally get justice. For your team. From my father. Sanja had been quietly listening as she cleaned the kitchen. Now she approached the table, placing a small wooden box between them. For protection, she said, opening the lid to reveal a handgun, smaller than the ones they'd taken from the overlook. Your father gave this to me years ago. Du Jiang looked surprised. I never knew you had this. There are many things children don't know about their parents. She closed the box and pushed it toward Kiana. This is for you. I can't take your protection, Kiana protested. An old woman living in the suburbs doesn't need such things. Sanja's expression was determined. You will protect my son. This will help you do that. The trust implicit in the gesture left Kiana momentarily speechless. She accepted the box with a bow of her head. I'll return it when this is over. See that you both come back to do so, Sanja replied. The next few hours passed in careful preparation. They couldn't risk contacting anyone who might be compromised, which meant they were on their own, no backup, no extraction plan except their own wits. Du Jiang found clothes in his old closet that still fit, a conservative dark suit that made him look like any other Korean business executive. For Kiana, Sanja altered one of her own outfits, a simple blouse and slacks that could pass for business attire. How do I look? Kiana asked, emerging from the guest room. Like an administrative assistant, Du Jiang replied. Perfect. They gathered their weapons, Kiana with Sanja's small pistol concealed in an ankle holster, Du Jiang with his own gun hidden under his jacket. Sanja provided them with burner phones she kept, for emergencies, another surprise from the seemingly ordinary grandmother. Last chance to back out, Du Jiang told Kiana as they prepared to leave. This isn't your fight. It became my fight 14 months ago in Virginia, she replied. Besides, we're better together. He nodded, accepting her decision. If anything happens to me, get the evidence to your contact. Don't wait, don't try to help me. Same goes for you, she countered. The mission comes first. They both knew neither would actually abandon the other, but acknowledging the priority of their larger goal felt necessary. Sanja hugged her son fiercely before they left. Return to me, she said simply. Always, Iyama. They took Sanja's Honda, an inconspicuous vehicle less likely to attract attention than Du Jiang's luxury cars. As they drove toward downtown Los Angeles, Kiana made a call on the burner phone. Margaret Kim speaking, answered a brisk female voice. It's Kiana Tolbert, she said. I need your help. A pause. It's been a while, Tolbert. Last I heard, you'd vanished after Chesapeake. That's part of why I'm calling. I have evidence about what really happened there. And it connects to something big happening here in LA. How big are we talking? International weapons smuggling. Corrupt NCIS leadership. Multiple criminal organizations. Another pause, longer this time. That's quite a claim. I have proof. Digital files, photographs. But I need someone I can trust to receive them. You think you're being watched. I know I am. And if I try official channels, it'll be buried. Coleman is involved. Coleman? Margaret's voice sharpened. You have evidence of that? Photos of him meeting with Korean organized crime before the Chesapeake operation. Time stamped, clear as day. Send what you have to the secure server. You remember the address? Yes. I'll be waiting. And Kiana? Be careful. If Coleman is involved, This goes deeper than you might think. I know. That's why I called you. Kiana ended the call, feeling slightly more hopeful. Margaret Kim had been her training officer when she first joined NCIS, tough, principled, and completely incorruptible. If anyone could navigate this evidence through the proper channels, it was Margaret. Good contact? Du Jiang asked as they turned onto the freeway. The best. Now we just need to get her that evidence. The Plaza building rose 40 stories above downtown Los Angeles, a gleaming tower of glass and steel. The Bico Syndicate owned the entire building through a series of shell companies, using it as their legitimate business headquarters. Du Jiang parked in the underground structure, choosing a spot near the private elevator but not too close to be suspicious. They sat for a moment, mentally preparing. Ready? He asked. Kiana nodded. Let's finish this. They entered the parking structure elevator, which required both a key card and a fingerprint scan. Du Jiang's credentials still worked. Apparently his uncle hadn't officially removed him from the system yet. Overconfidence, Du Jiang murmured. My uncle's weakness. The elevator rose smoothly to the 40th floor, bypassing all security checkpoints. When the doors opened, they stepped out into a quiet hallway lined with expensive artwork. Kiana immediately took on the role of assistant, walking slightly behind Du Jiang with a deferential posture. A receptionist looked up in shock as they approached. Mr. Kim. We weren't expecting you. Clearly, Du Jiang replied coolly. Is my uncle in? He's in a meeting, sir. Should I tell him you're here? No need. I'll wait in my office. Before the receptionist could respond, Du Jiang strode past her, Kiana following. The woman reached for her phone, undoubtedly to alert someone of their arrival. The clock's ticking, Kiana murmured as they moved down the hallway. Minutes at most before your uncle knows we're here. Then we'll be efficient. Du Jiang led her not to his own office but toward a service corridor that connected to the executive wing where Sungmin's office was located. They passed several employees who stared in surprise. Clearly, everyone knew about the attempt on Du Jiang's life. They reached a maintenance door that required another key card swipe. Du Jiang's access worked again, and they slipped into the narrow corridor used by cleaning staff. This bypasses the main security for the executive offices, he explained as they hurried along. My father showed me all the back ways when I was a child. Said a true leader knows every inch of his territory. The service corridor led them to a small supply closet just 2 doors down from Sungmin's office. Through a small ventilation grate, they could see part of the hallway outside, 2 guards standing at attention near what must be Sungmin's door. Now what? Kiana whispered. Before Du Jiang could answer, both guards' radios crackled with static. One listened, then spoke to his partner. They both turned and headed away from their post. That's not normal procedure, Du Jiang said, frowning. It could be a trap. Or an opportunity. They waited another 30 seconds to ensure the guards were truly gone, then slipped out of the closet and moved quickly to Sungmin's office door. It was locked, but Du Jiang produced a key from his pocket. Universal Executive Override, he explained. Another thing my father gave me. The office was spacious and traditional, heavy wooden furniture, Korean artwork, and a stunning view of the Los Angeles skyline. Unlike Du Jiang's minimalist taste, Sungmin preferred ostentatious displays of wealth. We need to be quick, Kiana said, moving to the computer on the desk. Check the filing cabinets for anything physical. I'll see what's on the hard drive. The computer was password protected, but Kiana had come prepared. She inserted a small device into the USB port, a password cracker she'd held onto from her NCIS days. As it ran, she started searching through drawers. Du Jiang moved methodically around the room, checking obvious hiding places first, then moving to more creative spots. He pressed panels, looked behind paintings, checked underneath furniture. Found something, he said after a few minutes, pulling a false bottom from a desk drawer. Inside was a small ledger book, old school, handwritten. My uncle doesn't trust computers for his most important records. As Du Jiang flipped through the book, his expression darkened. Names, dates, shipments. It's all here, the weapons, the buyers, the sellers. The computer's unlocked, Kiana reported, scanning through files quickly. There's email correspondence here, including messages to Brenner and Coleman. They were coordinating shipment inspections, making sure certain containers weren't examined too closely. Copy everything, Du Jiang said, photographing pages from the ledger with his phone. Kiana inserted a flash drive and began copying files. The transfer bar crept slowly across the screen, 20%, 25%, 30%. A noise from the hallway made them both freeze. Voices approaching. Du Jiang quickly closed the ledger and returned it to its hiding place. Hurry, he whispered. The file transfer reached 45%, 50%, 55%. The voices grew louder. Kiana recognized one of them with a chill, Brenner. He was here, in the building. 70%, 75%, 80%. We need to go, Du Jiang urged, moving toward the door to listen. 90%, 95%. Got it, Kiana whispered, ejecting the flash drive and pocketing it. She quickly closed all the windows on the computer, leaving it as they'd found it. The voices were right outside the door now. They heard a key in the lock. Du Jiang grabbed Kiana's arm and pulled her toward a wooden panel in the wall. He pressed a hidden switch, and the panel slid open to reveal a small private bathroom. They slipped inside just as the office door opened. Through the crack where the panel hadn't fully closed, they could see Sung-min enter, followed by Brenner and, to their shock, Min-ho. I'm telling you, he's in the building, Min-ho was saying. The receptionist saw him come in with some woman. Find him, Sung-min ordered. He can't be allowed to leave alive this time. What about the woman? Brenner asked. Kill her too. No witnesses. Min-ho nodded and left to carry out the orders. Sung-min turned to Brenner. This complicates things, the American said. If Du Jiang has evidence. He doesn't, Sung-min cut him off. He suspects, but he has no proof. Otherwise he would have gone to the authorities already. Unless he doesn't trust the authorities, Brenner pointed out. Given Coleman's involvement, he might be looking for alternative channels. Sung-min waved this away. It doesn't matter. By tonight, my nephew will be dead, and I will officially take control of the Biko syndicate. The weapon shipments will continue as planned. In their hiding place, Kiana and Du Jiang exchanged glances. Min-ho's betrayal was a shock, especially to Du Jiang, whose face had gone hard as stone. Brenner checked his watch. I need to meet our buyer at noon. Are you sure you can handle this? I've been handling my family's problems for decades, Sung-min replied coldly. Long before you Americans became involved. After a few more minutes of conversation, both men left the office. Kiana and Du Jiang waited a full minute before emerging from their hiding place. Min-ho, Du Jiang said, his voice hollow. 20 years with my family. I trusted him with everything. I'm sorry, Kiana said softly. I know what betrayal feels like. He nodded, pulling himself together visibly. We need to get out of here. We can't go back the way we came. They'll be watching. Du Jiang considered for a moment. There's a service elevator on the other side of this floor. It leads to the loading dock. They moved cautiously to the door, listening for activity outside. The hallway seemed clear, so they slipped out and headed away from the main reception area, moving quickly but trying not to look suspicious. They were halfway to the service area when Minho stepped around a corner, blocking their path. His face showed no surprise. He'd been waiting for them. "Boss," he said, the familiar term now twisted with irony. "Going somewhere?" "How long, Minho?" Du Jiang asked quietly. "How long have you been working for my uncle?" "Since before your father died." Minho's hand rested on his concealed weapon. Sungmin's vision for the family has always been clearer. "Stronger." "You mean more profitable," Kiana said. "No matter who gets killed in the process." Minho's eyes flicked to her. "You should have stayed a waitress, Miss Tolbert. You might have lived longer." "We have the evidence, Minho," Du Jiang said. "All of it. The weapons smuggling, Coleman, Brenner, my father's murder. It's already been sent to federal authorities." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Minho's face. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "My father taught me to always have insurance. Just like the USB drive he left with my mother." Minho's expression hardened. "Step away from her, Du Jiang. Your uncle wants to speak with you personally. The woman dies here." "That's not happening." Minho drew his weapon, but Kiana was already moving. She dropped low and swept her leg in a circular motion, knocking Minho off balance. Du Jiang lunged forward, grabbing Minho's gun hand and forcing it upward. The weapon discharged, the bullet hitting the ceiling. The sound would bring security running. Kiana sprang up, driving her elbow into Minho's ribs. He grunted but managed to throw Du Jiang off, bringing his gun back down. Everything happened in seconds after that. Minho aimed at Kiana. Du Jiang threw himself forward. The gun went off. Du Jiang staggered, clutching his side where blood was already spreading across his shirt. But his momentum carried him into Minho, slamming the older man against the wall. Kiana didn't hesitate. She pulled Sunja's gun from her ankle holster and struck Minho hard across the temple. He crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Du Jiang. She caught him as he slumped against her. "How bad is it?" "Not good," he grimaced, pressing his hand to the wound. Blood seeped between his fingers. "But I can move. We need to go. Now." Alarms began blaring throughout the building. Security would lock down all exits within minutes. Kiana put Du Jiang's arm around her shoulders, supporting his weight as they hurried toward the service elevator. His breathing was becoming labored, his steps unsteady. "Stay with me," she urged as they reached the elevator. "Just a little farther." The elevator seemed to take forever to arrive. When it finally did, they stumbled inside, Kiana jabbing the button for the loading dock. Du Jiang leaned heavily against the wall, leaving a smear of blood. "If I don't make it," he began. "Don't," she cut him off. "You're going to make it. We both are." The elevator descended painfully slowly. By the time they reached the loading dock, Du Jiang was barely conscious, his skin pale and clammy. Kiana peered out carefully. The dock was busy with workers unloading trucks, oblivious to the security situation above. She supported Du Jiang as they made their way through the commotion, trying to look like they belonged. They reached the parking area where deliverymen's vehicles were parked. Kiana quickly found an unlocked van with keys in the ignition, terrible security practice, but their salvation now. She helped Du Jiang into the passenger seat. His eyes were unfocused, his breathing shallow. "Stay awake," she ordered, starting the engine. "Du Jiang, look at me. Stay awake." "The evidence," he murmured. Make sure it gets to your contact. We're both delivering it, she replied firmly, driving the van out of the loading area just as security guards began to pour into the parking structure. They made it onto the street, merging with downtown traffic. No immediate pursuit, but it wouldn't take long for Sungmin's men to organize a search. Kiana glanced at Du Jiang. His eyes had closed, his head lolling against the window. The blood had soaked through his jacket, dripping onto the seat. Du Jiang. Her voice rose with urgency. Du Jiang. His eyes fluttered open briefly. Kiana, he whispered. I'm sorry. Then his eyes closed again, his body going limp beside her. Kiana pressed harder on the accelerator, weaving through traffic, one hand reaching over to apply pressure to his wound. Don't you dare die on me, she said fiercely. We're just getting started. Kiana drove the stolen delivery van with one hand, the other pressed firmly against the wound in Du Jiang's side. Blood seeped between her fingers no matter how much pressure she applied. The Los Angeles streets blurred around her as she weaved through traffic, constantly checking the rearview mirror for pursuit. Stay with me, she kept saying, more prayer than command. Just stay with me. Du Jiang's breathing had become shallow and irregular. His skin was ashen, eyes closed, head lolling with each turn of the van. The bullet had caught him just below the ribs on his right side. No exit wound, which meant the bullet was still inside him. She couldn't take him to a hospital. Sungmin would have people watching emergency rooms across the city. She couldn't return to Sunja's house either, that would only put his mother in danger. An idea struck her as she passed an abandoned shopping center in East Los Angeles. She'd noticed it on previous drives, a forgotten strip mall with boarded-up storefronts, waiting for some developer to tear it down. Kiana pulled around to the back of the complex, out of sight from the main road. She killed the engine and checked Du Jiang again. His pulse was weak but present. Du Jiang, she said firmly, squeezing his hand. I need to move you. I need you to help me if you can. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused but aware. Kiana, he whispered. That's right. We need to get inside. Can you walk at all? He nodded weakly. Kiana came around to the passenger side and opened the door, supporting him as he struggled to stand. He leaned heavily against her, his breath coming in pained gasps, but he was conscious enough to move his feet. Together they staggered to the back door of what had once been a convenience store. The lock was rusted and gave way with one solid kick. Inside was dusty and abandoned, but at least it offered shelter. Kiana helped Du Jiang to the floor, propping him against a wall. She quickly scanned their surroundings, one exit in front, one in back, windows boarded up but secure enough. It would do for now. I need to look at that wound, she said, gently moving his hand away from his side. She peeled back his blood-soaked shirt, revealing an angry, puckered hole that was still steadily leaking blood. This is going to hurt. She tore strips from her own blouse to create makeshift bandages, then used a small bottle of hand sanitizer from her pocket to clean her hands as best she could. Field medicine wasn't her specialty, but NCIS training covered the basics of bullet wounds. Pressure first, then clean, then bind, she murmured to herself, recalling the steps. Du Jiang watched her through half-lidded eyes. You've done this before, he observed, his voice barely audible. Once or twice. She pressed a folded cloth against the wound. But usually with better supplies. He hissed in pain but didn't pull away. In my pocket, phone. Kiana carefully reached into his jacket pocket and found his phone. Who am I calling? No one. Security risk. His breathing was labored. Photos of evidence. Make sure they get out. Kiana's throat tightened. You're going to deliver them yourself. You're not dying here. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Always, so certain. She worked methodically, applying pressure until the bleeding slowed, then cleaning the wound as best she could with the limited supplies. The bullet was deep, but from the location, it seemed to have missed vital organs. Still, without proper medical attention, infection would become the next threat. I need antibiotics, proper bandages, something to clean this properly, she said, more to herself than to him. In my wallet, Du Jiang whispered. Card, for Dr. Park. Kiana found his wallet and the business card inside, Dr. James Park, with a personal cell phone number handwritten on the back. Family doctor? Family, everything. Du Jiang's eyes drifted closed again. Tell him, code phrase. The dragon needs his scales mended. Under different circumstances, Kiana might have smiled at the melodrama of it. Instead, she used her burner phone to make the call. The conversation was brief. Dr. Park asked no questions after hearing the code phrase, simply promised to be at the location within 30 minutes with what was needed. The call ended with him warning her to watch for signs of shock. While waiting, Kiana continued to monitor Du Jiang's condition. His pulse remained weak but steady. The bleeding had slowed to a seep rather than a flow. But his skin was cold and clammy, his breathing uneven. She sat beside him, keeping one hand pressed to his wound, the other holding his cold fingers. You have to make it, she said softly. Your mother is waiting for you to come home. And we have unfinished business with your uncle. Du Jiang's eyes opened slightly, unfocused. My father would have liked you, he murmured. Yeah? Why's that? Brave. Stubborn. Beautiful. His words were slurring together. Like fire. Kiana felt her heart constrict. Save your strength. The doctor's coming. Need to tell you, in case. Don't talk like that. His fingers tightened weakly around hers. Never thought I would feel this again. After everything, didn't think I could. Feel what? She asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. His eyes found hers, suddenly clear despite the pain and blood loss. This. You. Like finding something I didn't know I was missing. The raw honesty in his gaze caught Kiana off guard. Something shifted inside her, the protective wall she built after Chesapeake cracking just enough to let in a sliver of light. The thought of losing him now, after everything they'd survived together, was suddenly unbearable. You're delirious from blood loss, she said gently, but her fingers interlaced with his. Maybe. His eyes drifted shut again. But delirium speaks truth sometimes. He slipped into unconsciousness then, his hand going limp in hers. Kiana checked his pulse, still there,